Hello, hello, hello. Hello, my data family friends. Data guys here. January 26, 2025. Another day, another function, another feature, and another video. Today's video, I'm really excited because I'm making this video based upon a request from one of my subscriber. You can imagine how gratifying it can be for anybody. Either you are a teacher, or you are a presenter, or you are a somebody. I really hardly want to call myself a YouTuber. I only been on YouTube for 4 days, but that the engagement, like, it makes you feel good that at least you have an engaged audience, and that's why I'm really excited. I appreciate the request, and I hope they keep coming in, because what it does is it helps me obviously get better myself. Like I've said before, sharing is caring, and also you learn the more you teach, you know. So that's my goal here. So I'm very excited. So today's popular, this video is based upon a request from one of my subscriber, that they said they would like to learn, or they would like me to make a video about the function TextJoin and IFERROR. The two different functions in Excel, TextJoin and IFERROR. And so I'm making a video about those things, and really I appreciate again the suggestion. So now one thing I would like to say before I go further about these particular functions is, if you are an experienced data analyst, or you're in the field of data analysis, or you've been playing with data for a while, then I'm sure you'll agree with me. And if you're new to this field, you will very soon come to find out that you don't get the same, like a very structured data all the time. Actually, you hardly ever will get a structured data. That would be like a dream come true, that you get the most cleanest data and now you just have to do an analysis. But in the real world, that doesn't happen, right? So you have to make that data in that, or like prepare it, like you have to cook it. So what we call it in the data analysis terminologies, you listen lingo, you have to massage the data to the way you want it to be. So, and for that, this is where all these functions, features, all these different tools, they come into hand. Because I would say similarly, I mean, I can use the analogy, let's say if you're a plumber, right? A plumber, when somebody calls a plumber because they have some issue at their plumbing issues at their home, or workplace, wherever, they come with a whole big van, and they have all kind of different tools, because they don't know what to expect till they get there. And once they analyze to what exactly the task ahead is, they say, okay, I'm gonna need this and this tool, so they prepare. Think of a doctor. Every day they see many patients, and even the same patient may have multiple issues. So based upon the diagnosis, based upon this, and on their own experience and knowledge, they know which tool, or which, and of course in case of doctors, medicine more than a tool, unless you're a surgeon, that which medicine to prescribe that will take care of that particular illness or disease, right? So similarly, when you're data analyst, or you're in the field of data analysis, the more tools and feature on your hand, which one to use for what particular task you have ahead, right? Some of them, these features and tools will come handy into actually cleaning the data, preparing the data for the purpose of analysis, and some will actually use for the purpose of analysis, right? So just want to give that in the starting. So like I said, these two features, the TextJoin and IFERROR, we'll discuss today based upon the request. And what I wasn't sure, if my subscriber was wanting me to cover these two separately, or he or she was interested to see how they can be used as a combination. So I thought, well, if I'm making a video, why not cover both of them, and then how they can be combined? Because that's the thing, right? You have sometimes, again, coming back to the plumber example, you have different tools, but sometimes you're gonna need both of those two tools together to make it work, whatever you need to be done. So we'll do that. And then so that's what we'll cover today in today's video. And then what I also did, if you are like me, and I'm sure there are many more, if you know those things, but then like text join, and once we go to these features or how this works, some of you maybe think, I've thought about, some of you, because I thought about that, why not to use concatenation, right? So I'll highlight some of the differences where one function will be better to be able to use compared to the other one. So that's as a bonus at the end. We'll discuss between where text join and concatenate may differ, and where would you can use one for the other. All right, another thing I did today for a change of the format, because what I thought is features like these text join and if error, etc., to discuss more. So because again, if you understand it, what this feature or function do, then you, because at the end of the day, it's just a syntax of the formula, right? If you apply the formula correctly, syntax wise, your formula will work. But in order to understand what the syntax is doing, it why or how this formula works is more important. So what I thought is I'll create a PowerPoint presentation, and then for the sake of seamless, it's not making too confusing that we switch back and forth between the PowerPoint and the Excel. What I'll do is cover the whole PowerPoint presentation, and then I'll switch to the Excel at the end, and where I'll show you how that formula is actually in action. But let's go through these slides first to understand or I'll get our understanding as good as possible. So when we actually apply the formula, it makes more sense. So hopefully you all agree with this approach. So let's go to the next slide. So introduction, again, welcome to DataGuy. In this video, you'll learn how to use TextJoin to combine text with delimiters, how to use if-error to handle errors in Excel, combining TextJoin and if-error for error-free data, and then key differences between TextJoin and concatenate. All right, so what is TextJoin? Just from like the name, it says the TextJoin function allows you to combine text from multiple cells into one using a specified delimiter. Syntax is TextJoin, open parentheses, delimiter, whatever that delimiter could be. It could be a comma, it could be a space, so any of those delimiters, comma, ignore empty, comma, whichever the first text field is, then the second text field, and so on, keep going, right? So the key features, what are the key features? This supports delimiters like commas, spaces, etc. Could be semicolon, whatever those delimiters are, right? Can skip empty cells with ignore empty. And we'll see that in actual action when we apply the formula, and then works on ranges of specified cells. So you may have, 5 columns, one after the other. So the whole range you can apply this formula. So here's an example how the text join example works. And again, this where it comes to my initial statement I made. Every day, different data set. In fact, within same day in your job or wherever you are, if you're doing your own something your own, you'll have different sets of data, and every data set may look different, completely different than the other. So depending upon the task you have, let's suppose you have a sample data like this. You have a first column, first name, and you have last name in the other column, but then you have to apply it where you would need the first and last name together, right? So how would you do it? So this is some very simple, basic example, but you can imagine you have you can imagine you have 5 rows of data, where you also need to, for whatever reason your need is, you also need to concatenate or join or put all that address or city or email address into one. Sometimes, let's say in your job, you're creating some kind of database where you have to create an email, and the format may be the first name dot last name, then @ symbol, and then whatever the domain is, right? So it could be a lot of different reasons where you need to do that part. So this is where text join will come in, and the formula would be equals the text join, and you can see the delimiter. In this case, this particular example, the delimiter is space, right? Then comma, true, comma, and then the cell A and 2 and B2, right? And we will again apply that. But basically what I'll do is, you can see the results on the bottom. You'll see Alice Johnson. Once you apply the formula, so your Alice, first name, last name Johnson will be with the space, it'll be together, right? Alice Johnson, Bob Smith, Carol White. Apologies, I'm still trying to get over my cough, so bear with me if you hear this scary cough in the behind, just think of Happy Halloween. All right, let's move to the next slide. Now, so that was the text join. Now, what is if error? So the if error functions help you handle errors in Excel formulas by replacing them with custom messages or values. And the more and more you'll play with the data, you'll know you'll get errors. And again, because first of all, you don't have a clean data, or it could be some of the reasons, and we'll explore some of these things. You will get errors. Now, how do you handle those errors so that you have a clean data? And this is where this if error comes in. Again, the syntax, very important. It's the value, the first value, and then, if error, if the value is, and what's the value if error. So basically, if you have an error for whatever the error reason is, what is it that you would like to call it, etc., right? So here's what is the key features. It prevents displays of errors like div 0. Basically, whenever you have let's say if you're trying to create in Excel or wherever, if you have a numerator and denominator, right? So if you try to do a divide by 0, so basically you're going to get an error, right? So this is why you will get these errors functions of how to handle that. So you can easily identify that's really the issue is because of this certain thing, not something else that you're scratching your head and spending time trying to figure out. So that's again the whole idea is to have and make it ensure that you have a clean and readable data. All right, and here's an example. So you have exactly what we just said earlier. So here in this case, let's say you have actual sales and the target sales, and then you're trying to figure out, okay, how much they achieved as a performance. So in the first example, actual sales of 5,000, target is 10,000, no problem, you got 0.5, right? But the second one, let's see, you can see in the formula, you have actually identified that if that happens, whenever that happens, and call it an error. So at least you know there's an error. You have highlighted it. And you can see in this case it's 8,000 divided by 0. Basically, you're trying to divide anything by 0, you're going to get an error because of the simple math, right? So in this case, now that you have put that formula and you call it whenever you find this thing, you can put anything in there, right? Instead of error, you can just call it your name or, anything. Basically, what it's going to do is then once you get all the results, you can very quickly highlight or filter those particular values and separate them, etc. And also because once you start doing much more these data analysis, etc., you'll see whenever you have a div 0 thing, a lot of those things when you're trying to do some kind of analysis or etc., the div 0 may not play very well. So that's where it's easy to identify those, separate them, clean them, your data, etc. So that's the function or how the if error works on this one. Now, like I said earlier, the combining those two, and what is it that you'll actually achieve by doing that? So we have seen what the text join does, and we also have if error. Now combining, what I've done, and again, we will let's not click on this thing again. I have to keep myself reminding myself it's in PowerPoint slide. So here in this first example, you have again Alice Johnson. It works fine. If you notice in the middle, without me clicking on it, you can see I have two different formulas there. Because again, it's like in data analysis, it's not one size fits all. It really depends upon what exactly you're trying to do. What is your end goal, even from that particular. So the both of those formulas, technically they're not wrong, but I'll explain it to you. So basically the line number 2 where you have Bob and last name is blank. If you apply the formula that we used earlier, if error text join, with the space true A2 B2 and incomplete data, if you noticed, it's saying incomplete data. But the thing is actually when you apply it in the Excel, actually it's gonna say Bob. Technically it's not wrong, but then if you wanted to your output to actually have it call it incomplete because there's a last name missing, it's blank, then you'll apply the second formula. So I wanted to highlight both because again, it's not one thing, even though it's the same formula, but you'll have to apply a little bit more condition if your goal is that call it incomplete even if the last name is missing. So I want to highlight that part and we'll take a look at it in the Excel itself for this one. Hopefully it's making sense. Now this is, like I said, text join versus concatenate. So some of the main differences are delimiters. Like in concatenation, if you are familiar with that formula, the concat formula, you just simply do concat and then and again we'll take a look at it on the Excel when we switch to Excel, but it's just simply gonna take the first cell, the second cell is just gonna join it. So we were talking about Alice Johnson example, it will have Alice Johnson all together mixed, no space unless you add additional comma and then add this quotes unquotes space in there. So that's one reason. Ignore the empty cells. So you have an option, but concatenation also includes the empty cells. Range handling handles ranges with delimiters, and concat does not. No delimiters, right? You can drag the whole formula for next 5 columns even in concat, but it will not handle the delimiters. And use case really is you can do much more advanced manipulation of the data like we saw earlier, and it's just a simple concatenation. So again, I'm saying I call this closing thoughts as my slide, but we will switch to Excel after this. So the idea here is, again, what we covered is the text join combines with text with delimiters and skip empty cells. How if error handles, and the combination of those two, the text join and if error, and the key difference, there could be more. I just want to highlight a couple of them, what those differences are. At the end, the request is, hopefully you find these things valuable. So please like, share, and subscribe. And I really welcome your comments, suggestions. There's always room for improvement. If you have any suggestions for me, feel free to provide those as well. Any other feature or function you would like me to cover or make videos like this one, I'll really appreciate it, because it's like we're learning together. I never claimed, and I know for sure I don't know everything, but whatever I know, I will share. And if I don't know, I'll try to get myself, obviously you learn every day, your knowledge is just never ending. So I'll learn something based upon maybe any request that you place. So again, thank you. So let me switch to now the Excel file so we can take a look at that particular thing we just talked about. So I created, if you can see, 3 different tabs here to go over one of each of those examples. So what I done here, like I was saying, if you understand what the formula is supposed to be doing, and you know the syntax, then really it's just simply applying that syntax, but you have to know what. So that's why the whole goal was to go over those PowerPoint presentation, is to understand what the formula is supposed to be doing and what is this text join is about. So now the same example we looked at in the PowerPoint, we have Alice here, we have Johnson here, and then after applying the formula, maybe I make this a little bit, let me see, can I zoom this a little bit? Can I make, oh, there you go. Let me zoom this a little bit so it'll be hopefully better to watch on the screens. So hopefully this is better. So here you can see the formula right here, and it's the first cell here, Alice, the first name, and the last name, and you have here. Sorry guys, I had to put myself on pause so I can cough. Still trying to get over it. So here's the formula for the text join. Now this is what I was talking about in my concatenation. If you notice, the simple concat formula is whichever your range is. So you can have these two, you can even add this, whatever your range is. But you can see there's no space, Alice Johnson, because concat formula is this and this. Now to replicate this thing, the text join, you can do is concat, and then you have to add this particular space in there, and then it will work. So I just want to highlight what we were talking about, and where one formula, even though it looks like they're doing the same thing, but where one makes sense using it compared to the other, or advanced functionality, right? So here with the text join, you get this feature. Now second example, what we talked about was the Let me again make it bigger. So, all right. So this is what we looked at in the if error. So if error right here, if you would have done simple Excel formula, this cell divided by this cell, you will get this div 0 error, right? That's the error. Now imagine you have a data set of 6,000 rows of data. Out of there, a lot of different, for whatever reasons, your target was 0 or something. It could be just a problem with the data. How can you have a sale with no target? But it's possible, not impossible. But those are things you want to highlight and call out. And then of course, from whatever your aggregation you're doing, you'll need to know that's for. So if you would have this one, it will just give you div 0. So you cannot, it will probably stop you from doing some of the analysis, etc. So instead of doing this thing just to create, you can use the if error and say wherever. So basically what we're calling is error handling, right? So if you get an error, then you can say call it an error, or you can call it anything else. So let's say instead of error, you can call it check, right? So there you go. So it'll give you something. So something you can isolate this after once you have the final set of your data, you can isolate and take a look at it later on, or maybe talk to the people who have given you the data. Hey, can you please check, is this supposed to be 0? Those type of things. But this is where the if error formula comes in. Now talking about combining those things. So the third example would be, again, let's first make this bigger. So easy, oops, did I just, oh, I see. So what is the combination of those things? So here, if you noticed, and if you remember, we talked about two things. When is it incomplete data versus, so that's really where we can make. So you have the if error, TextJoin, and if you notice, like I said, there's nothing wrong with this formula either. It's giving you the way it's supposed to be. But if you notice in this second row, Bob, you have a last name missing. Technically, if error is giving you TextJoin formula because what are you doing? You're joining these two, ignore the empty, and give me, and there's your result. But what if you actually is gonna depend upon the task you have? Maybe every single one is supposed to have a last name, and now that you can see, oh, there's something wrong here. So for that, you want to call out if you do not have your so-called complete data. So you can use a little bit, modify your formula. Even you're still using the TextJoin, but you are simply call it incomplete if these two are not complete. So I hope this makes sense, and also highlights the point. Maybe even the standard formulas you'll have to modify depending upon what your need is. What is your end goal? What is it you're really trying to figure it out in your data analysis? So those type of things. So this is another, and you'll know it, the more you play with your data, the more tools, features, these things you're aware of. And that's another example of one of those things what we said earlier in the previous videos. If you know the basic, if you know the foundation, then you'll know how to make it more advanced, make it more complex, depending upon the situation or scenario that you may be running into or trying to solve for. So truly appreciate all the support, engagement. Please continue to engage. Leave your comments. Please provide me your feedback. But I really hope this was very helpful to you all. And I'm really very thankful for my subscriber who actually put this request to make a video, because that makes me feel that I'm giving you something that you may be entering in your daily life today, or if it may help you to understand even better. Maybe you already knew it but has some questions probably, so now it helps you to understand that better. Thank you again. Till next time we see you, have fun data analyzing, and I'll see you tomorrow or whenever I make the next video. So thank you very much. Bye bye.